This tiny bird has no tools, no workshop, and almost no room for error. Yet somehow, it can turn ordinary leaves into a place strong enough to protect the next generation. The bird is called the common tailorbird, and its nest-building behavior is so unusual that at first glance, it hardly seems possible. It does not simply pile twigs into the fork of a branch. Instead, it changes the shape of a living leaf. And the most remarkable part is how it does it. Across much of Asia, this small songbird spends much of its life among shrubs, gardens, forest edges, and dense vegetation. It is easy to overlook. Its greenish upper parts blend naturally with the leaves around it, while its small body allows it to move quickly through dense vegetation. But when the breeding season arrives, being small creates a serious challenge. A future nest must support eggs and chicks. It must remain stable. And just as importantly, it should avoid drawing unnecessary attention. For the tailorbird, the solution is already growing all around it. Before any stitching begins, the bird needs the right foundation. A broad living leaf can become part of the structure itself. But not every leaf will work. It needs to be flexible enough to bend, yet strong enough to remain intact as the bird works on it. The tailorbird moves carefully through the vegetation. It investigates one leaf, then another. It tests the edges. It changes position. It pulls. It releases. A leaf that looks completely ordinary to us is being evaluated as building material. And once a suitable site is chosen, the real work begins. The tailorbird starts by drawing the edges of the leaf toward one another. Its feet help control the living material. Then comes the behavior that gave this bird its name. Using its narrow bill, the female creates tiny holes along the edge of the leaf. Not large tears, not deep cuts, just tiny openings. Small enough for the leaf to remain useful as part of the structure. Then she brings in something that looks almost impossibly delicate. Fine plant fibers can become thread. So can strands of natural silk collected from the environment. The bird passes this material through the tiny openings in the leaf. Pull, reposition, thread again. What looks fragile begins to hold. The fibers do not need to turn the leaf into a rigid wall. They simply need to keep the edges in position, while the natural shape of the leaf helps maintain the structure. One connection follows another, and slowly, a flat leaf becomes something entirely different, a cradle. This is not a job that rewards brute force. Too much force could damage the very structure the bird depends upon. Instead, the process relies on repeated, controlled movements. The feet stabilize, the bill pierces. The fibers hold, and the bird keeps returning to the same small construction site, working at a scale measured in leaf veins and strands of material. From a distance, almost nothing seems to have changed. That is part of the beauty of the design. The outside is still a leaf, still green, still part of the plant, but inside, a protected space is beginning to appear. And there is another important detail. The stitched leaf is not the entire nest. It forms the outer framework. Inside this leafy enclosure, the birds create a deeper cup using fine grasses and other soft nesting materials. The result combines two very different kinds of construction. Outside, living vegetation provides support and concealment. Inside, softer material creates the place where the eggs will eventually rest. From the exterior, the structure can remain surprisingly easy to miss, and that matters. A nest creates a difficult survival problem. It must remain in one place long enough for the next generation to develop. But remaining in one place also makes it vulnerable. Eggs cannot flee. Young chicks cannot simply escape at the first sign of danger. So concealment becomes part of the architecture. For the tailorbird, building among living leaves allows the nest to remain visually connected to the vegetation around it. The greatest success may be the structure that attracts the least attention. Not a fortress, not an enormous platform, just a carefully altered piece of greenery that still looks like greenery. But delicate construction does not mean the work is effortless. A fiber can fail. A leaf can tear. A connection may need to be adjusted. Nest building is not a single magical gesture. It is a sequence of small problems, solved one after another. And this is where the Tailorbird's persistence becomes just as impressive as its technique. The finished nest hides all the repeated movements that created it. The testing, the pulling, the piercing, the carrying, the threading, and the constant return to complete another tiny part of the structure. By now, the leaf is beginning to hold its new shape. But construction alone is not enough. The real test is whether this delicate-looking structure can do what every successful nest must eventually do: protect a generation that cannot yet protect itself. Eventually, what began as an ordinary leaf has become a nursery. The transformation is subtle enough that an observer might pass by without ever noticing it. And that may be the most extraordinary thing about the Tailorbird's achievement. Its nest does not succeed by separating itself from nature. It succeeds by becoming part of it. The plant provides the framework. Fibers provide the connections. Soft material creates the inner cup. And the bird brings all of those pieces together through a precise sequence of behavior. For such a small bird, the challenge of raising a new generation is enormous. But survival does not always reward the largest body, the strongest jaws, or the most intimidating animal. Sometimes, survival belongs to the creature that can see possibility in something ordinary. A leaf, a strand of fiber, a few tiny openings, and enough precision to bring them together. The Tailorbird does not overpower its surroundings. It works with them. A living leaf becomes structure. A strand of fiber becomes connection. And a series of tiny movements becomes a place where new life can begin. In nature, survival is not always a question of strength. Sometimes, the smallest advantage comes from knowing exactly how to use what is already there. The Tailorbird's nest may be small. It may disappear almost completely among the leaves, but hidden inside that quiet structure is one of nature's most elegant lessons. You do not always survive by overpowering your environment. Sometimes, you survive by learning how to build with it.